I made a frankincense infused oil, and that video was very popular. And this right here, the resin, turned out to be an amazing scrub. I'll show you how I use it and talk about why I normally don't like a scrub and why this one is different. If you're new here, my name's Loanna. I'm a licensed esthetician and I have transitioned to an all-natural skincare routine. A while back, I made the frankincense infused oil, and I will link that video in the description because you are going to want to make this scrub and you're going to want that oil too. After infusing the resin into the oil, I was left with this thick, beautiful resin, and instead of infusing it again, because you can, I decided this might make a great scrub, and I'm glad I did. I show you exactly how to get this resin in that video. And by the way, the frankincense resin that I linked in that video, you all completely bought it out. It's gone. So I tracked down a few other options and I'll link those, and we're going to talk about the different resins here in a little bit. This is what the leftover resin looks like. It's gritty, but it's not harsh, and it's more like a soft polish. I just take a tiny amount and mix it with a little bit of the oil. It turns into this gentle polish, and a little goes a long way. Mine was ground very, very fine, and that is the texture you want, and we'll talk about that here in a minute as well. I've never been a huge fan of facial scrubs, even natural scrubs, because most scrubs can actually scratch and cause little micro tears in the skin. I'm a firm believer in protecting that skin barrier. You'll hear me say that a lot. And if you ever get a scrub that is not scratchy, it typically is because the scrub is a silicone bead or some sort of synthetic and not scratch the skin. And if you're like me, you're probably not a huge fan of using something that's been steeping with silicone or something synthetic in it and then scrubbing it on your face. But this one is different, and I'll show you why. It has this fine grit that when you buff it, it's really gentle. It's not sharp at all. And I'm going to try to show you here. It's because it's a resin, so when you rub it between your fingers with a little oil to keep it lubricated, it starts to dissolve. It just keeps getting finer and finer as you use it. And it leaves this beautiful layer of the frankincense oil. And where the resin has dissolved from rubbing it, you have that resin that lingers on your face. And I use it kind of as a mask. Let me show you. First, I've cleansed my face, and I do an oil cleanse. I show that in another video. I take a small amount of the scrub and I distribute it all over my face, neck, and chest. And then you'll want to get a little extra oil and keep that really lubricated. And that's why I left some of that oil in the jar. The frankincense itself has many anti-aging benefits. It helps reduce fine lines, wrinkles, it evens skin tone, it supports collagen and elasticity, it calms redness, it helps fade dark spots, hyperpigmentation, it promotes cell turnover rate, and it's kind of astringent, so it helps tighten pores. I do this scrub 2 to 3 times a week. It works great in the shower. I do it at the beginning of my shower or my bath, and I let it sit while I do everything else I need to do, and then I rinse it off. And then I just pat it dry with a towel, and then I go about my regular skin routine. If I'm not showering, I will do my scrub it for a little while, then I will kind of rinse off the granules and barely pat dry and leave that oily residue and let it stay on for about 10 or 20 minutes. And then I remove it with a warm, damp washcloth, wash off that residue, and then I proceed with my spray, my oils, or your tallow balm. I love this scrub. I was kind of expecting this to be the results, but I wanted to give it a good try before I recommended it or started sharing it with you. My skin looked smoother, felt smoother, a little more evened in the skin tone, and over time it's just improving and improving. When I first started using it, I even had some exfoliating. Now I do a dry brush exfoliation, but this was a little deeper exfoliation. I could feel it exfoliating. We're just gently rubbing. We're not in there scrubbing it around. We're just gently moving and massaging with the lubricating oil, those little resin granulars around. I recommend when you start with scrubbing for shorter periods of time, maybe 20-30 seconds, and maybe only leave it on the skin if you're going to leave it on like a mask for about 5 minutes, and then gradually build up to scrubbing a little longer and leaving it on a little longer. You're going to have to gauge that for yourself. Remember, we're not trying to scrub our skin off, we're gently exfoliating. Now I've built up to where, like you saw, I did that for like a full minute scrub, and then I can leave it on for 15-20 minutes. But I built up to that. I have pretty sensitive skin, but we're all different, and some of you may be more sensitive than others. So if you've never tried the frankincense, do a patch test, make sure you can tolerate it. And with the scrub, it should never hurt. It should never be uncomfortable. If it is, stop. Use your own judgment and your noggin. The frankincense is great for inflammation and redness. However, I do not recommend the scrub for rosacea or someone with active eczema. Now the oil is fine, but you don't want to use a scrub on anything that's already inflamed. Now we'll talk about the different resins in a minute, but I want to talk about something we learned from that oil video from you guys. I did not have this problem, but some of you did. And I figured if a few of you commented that you had the problem, then there was probably some that didn't comment. To make this scrub, I used this old coffee grinder to grind up the resin. Some of you said that the resin gummed up your coffee grinder, but I decided, because I really like this oil and it's worth it to me, I have retired my real coffee grinder. And the reason being is this one comes off, so you're not dealing with a motor. It's just the mechanics and it's not the motor. One of you said that you did it in your Ninja and that you soaked it with really, really hot water and it took a lot of time and you finally got it all out. And Miss Janet said that she used 90% isopropyl alcohol and not a 70, you need the 90, and that got the resin out of her grinder. So this is stainless steel, it comes off. You can soak this in hot water, or you could soak it with isopropyl with 90% alcohol and be able to get in here and scrub. And the motor's down here, you're not hurting the motor. I've used this for about a year for coffee and it's great. And it's getting retired. We're not grinding our coffee right now anymore. I know that may seem a little extra, but I am loving the results I'm getting from the frankincense oil and the scrub. So it's worth it to have a designated frankincense grinder. It's worth it to me. Let's talk about the resins. There are several different kinds. There's so many out there. The one I used was called Boswellia sacra. I want to call it sacra, but I think it's pronounced sacra. And that one is a good one for the skin. Another one would be Boswellia serrata. And I'm going to try a Hajari royal green sacra. Another thing you want to look for is that it is sustainably and ethically harvested. Apparently that's a huge problem in this industry. Now I'm still researching and trying to source some of the different varieties. We can do the best we can with the information we have available to us right now. And unfortunately, there isn't really much enforcement in truth in labeling. So, which is why I recommended the two companies that I did in the oil video, because I trust those companies. So until they can get that restocked, we're going to look for a few other options. Now we're definitely starting with a medium grade resin, but you can upgrade once you know that you love it, and we know we love it. And I'll have a sit and chat video, so ask me your questions and I'm going to do a little more research. And if any of you have some recommendations for some really good sources or what variety of resin you like or used, we can share that in the comments. We are all trying to navigate this natural skincare stuff. And if that's something you're interested in, that's what I do. So hit the like and subscribe and that little notification bell so you can get notified when I do upload a video. It's super simple to make and I know you're going to love it. And I'll have everything linked in the description, and you can check out how to make the oil right here in this video, and you can check out my skincare routine here in this video. I thank you so much for hanging out with me. My name's Loanna, and this is a little bit of Homestead.